So I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, it's like I lived in a place that was kind of close to countryside and things like that and woods and things. So you could go out with your mates and you might build a den or do something like that. And by doing that, you're using your imagination, you're finding bits around in the environment, putting them together. You're kind of learning basic engineering and how to manipulate the world around you and creativity and teamwork and all that kind of thing. Whereas I think using tablets, smartphones, whatever, you're learning something, but you're not learning that set of skills.
The first generation born entirely in the 21st century has come into age, and they've never known a world without smartphones, AI, or instant connectivity. While we're figuring out how to use technology, Generation Alpha was born fluent in digital, and that's changing everything about childhood. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin alongside my good friend Adam Garcia, and today we're digging into what might be the most profound social experiment of our time, raising humans in an increasingly artificial world. Generation Alpha, born after 2010, is the first truly digital native generation. We're going to dig into how constant connectivity is reshaping brain development, how parents are navigating screen time battles without instruction manuals, and whether the social skills we grew up with still matter in their world. Plus, we'll look at what happens when AI becomes your child's first teacher. So, Adam.
Hello.
We're both in distinctly different backgrounds here. And, I think it's because the podcast has started paying off. And now we have so much money, we can afford to move to an extra $1 million a month places.
Who'd have thought $40 would make such a difference to our lives?
I mean, aren't we lucky that we live in a country where $40 is literally $1 million?
I like it. I like walking down the street knowing I'm a millionaire.
This is it. I mean, I
It's half
haven't.
a millionaire.
Yeah, right. On a good day. I mean, I haven't quite got to $1 billion month yet, but it's on the horizon. I mean, 1 billion Vietnam dong. Sorry, Vietnam dong.
But it could be real life dollars one day. Who knows?
Yeah, one day. One day in some place.
I think once we start selling some merch, I think people buy the merch and they just, it just keeps rolling in.
I wonder what catchphrases we could have on that merch. I mean, I'm not going to say the word that probably got us 1 view on our last episode, but we definitely shouldn't have that on t-shirts. And
it kind of sounds a bit like a kind of file type that books and documents often come in.
Well, actually, last week, and I shared this on my Facebook, maybe we can pop it up and show the listeners, the viewers, what I saw. But I was in Hoi An, which is very close to us, and there was a pair of shorts, like swimming shorts, in the shop, and they were a very well-known brand called Speedo, but they'd misprinted them, so they didn't have the S.
Nice.
Yeah. So they were genuine Speedos minus an S. And I think
you buy them?
I actually offered them to some of my friends, and I don't think you were on that text list, Adam. To be fair, you're not who came to mind when I saw that word.
But that's very kind of you to say such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I sent it to a few other people, and yeah, interesting brand for sure.
Yeah, it's just something got lost in translation or culture or something.
Yeah, it's almost like when you see t-shirts out here that say Disney fonts on them.
Yeah.
It's, and I was once behind someone on a motorbike, and it said on the back of his jacket, "Health and Safety,"
which is crucially important.
Yeah, which made me question how much,
But the idea of like any kind of health and safety here as well is also, I don't know, it doesn't seem to sort of match. So maybe it makes sense that the safety bit would be spelt wrongly.
Yeah, they dropped an E, and not in a good way.
But they didn't get the come down, so it was all right.
So it was okay. Yeah, or maybe he was on a come down. He dropped an E and then dropped the E when he was making that jacket. Yeah,
been
yeah.
waiting in the design room, just getting it wrong.
That or the E didn't work on the keyboard, but then again, you wouldn't have health, would you? Anyway, moving on. So I'm going to give you a stat smack right now. Listen to this. So according to the University of Michigan, by age 2, 90% of US children have an online presence. And that's before they can even talk or walk. Can that even be true?
What kind of presence is that?
Well, this is the question. It's according to a study that Michigan meant, and I get that Michigan meant that the University of Michigan did, and I guess by online presence they mean, images of them being on their parents' Facebooks, like
I guess
going onto YouTube, watching Cocomelon and all of that kind of rubbish.
I guess it would be, and I mean, parents often post pictures of their kids before they're even born, so they'll post a picture of like the ultrasound and things like that.
Guilty.
Like, how old were you when you were first on Facebook? Oh, it was like -4 months.
Yeah, people trying to decide if it looks like the mum or the dad from an ultrasound. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely got your head. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Have you ever seen those pictures where they show why they use an ultrasound and not something like an MRI? Because the MRI pictures look really scary. It looks like some alien life form that's gonna, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, looks really freaky.
I'm gonna have to just quickly look at that.
MRI.
Yeah, we can put this up on the screen. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, wow. That is scary. You can just see like the whole brain, the eyeballs. It kind of looks a bit like some kind of Rick and Morty character. From the side view, this one that I'm seeing, it looks like an avocado with a face, which is kind of cool.
Whereas like the ultrasound always actually looks like a miniature human that's developing, whereas the other one looks like it's, I don't know, kind of parasitic alien life form that's about to come bursting out.
Questionable when we're talking about Generation Alpha, which one's more accurate, I suppose.
Going back to the statistic that you had, I saw something similar, but it said that around 90% of kids by the age of 2 have used a mobile device. It didn't say about the online presence, but I guess both could be kind of true.
Was it also the University of Michigan by any?
I don't know. I give up on referencing things these days. Just throw stuff out there. It's most shocking.
That's fair enough, guys. You heard it here first. Everything we say is fully verifiable. You can trust us. Okay, good. We're human, definitely human. But I mean, I can believe it in terms of screens. I think it's probably even higher than that. I guess in the US, you've got like, Amish people, as they're probably not looking at too many screens before they're 2. Like, I don't know what percentage of the American population is Amish, but I'm guessing a reasonable couple of percent.
Maybe. I would think it's quite a low percent. But
yeah.
Have you ever seen those videos where it's like little kids sleeping, but they're kind of like swiping on a phone or like doing games in the sleep?
No, but that sounds horrific.
It's really like sort of dystopian kind of stuff. It's like they literally had that much exposure to tablets or smartphones, but even in their sleep, just like when you see a dog that's sleeping and it starts running, they're kind of doing the same thing. They're sort of dreaming and just sort of
like when we're sleeping and we're like
exactly the same, really.
Tells from a misspent 20s. Of course, now it's me when I'm sleeping. I'm like this, and
yeah, sure.
That's what I'm. Yeah. But I can believe it. And I mean, some of it is even down to education. Like as you know, I have an almost 8-year-old daughter. So she's Gen Alpha, born in 2017. And when she was a baby or a toddler, we used to let her watch things on YouTube, snuff videos, and North Korean. No, not really. But we used to let her watch all of the. Probably would have been better than letting her watch Cocomelon and Baby Shark and all of these things, because at the time, just didn't really realize how bad those kind of TV shows are, to be honest. And now with Leo, my son, he's just under 2. We let him watch things that have a story. So like Bluey, for example, it's like your classic nuclear sort of family. There's a dad, a mum, a brother, a sister. They all have their roles that they should have in the family, a father, mother, and the stories are all around, things that happen in families, right? You can watch it and you can relate to that, and there's a good message behind it. So we let him watch some of that, but again, maybe a little bit too much. But the problem with it now is if you're in a restaurant and your kid's going fucking mental, people expect you to put them in front of a phone to shut them up.
Yeah, it's just like a sort of pacifier.
Yeah.
Like kid's acting up.
Yeah. But if you're the one parent in there that's like not doing that, everyone's like looking at you like, what? Just give them the fucking phone. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Just rot his brain for the next half hour. Come on, what kind of parent are you?
Yeah, to the point that we don't much with Leo, so we don't even enjoy going out anywhere because he just wants to run around everywhere and play, and we're not just going to stick him on a phone.
Yeah, because surprisingly, kids want to do the natural things that kids have always done for hundreds of thousands of years.
That's right. Yeah, like smash things and, chuck stuff and...
Yeah, and kind of just explore the world. What happens if I throw this? What happens if... It's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how many times will I trap my fingers today if I keep opening and shutting this door? Oh, it's again. That's again.
Yeah. It's like, what's this hole in the wall do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's a big part of growing up. And it's one of the reasons that, again, we're lucky in the sense that we have an outdoor space in my house. The road's quiet. There's nobody here. It's literally like a ghost town. So we can let them run around a bit, And I think a lot of parents now, they just don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, completely. But also, I think by giving like a smartphone, tablet, whatever, it's taken away some of the creativity of childhood. So I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, it's like I lived in a place that was kind of close to countryside and things like that, and woods and things. So you could go out with your mates and you might build a den or do something like that. And by doing that, you're using your imagination, you're finding bits around in the environment, putting them together. You're kind of learning basic engineering and how to manipulate the world around you, and creativity and teamwork and all that kind of thing. Whereas I think using tablets, smartphones, whatever, you're learning something, but you're not learning that set of skills.
Yeah, and it's not connected to the physical world, which, I mean, of course, it's an important thing. And you could argue that some of it is better learned because they need it, right? They need it for the world that they're going into. But certainly, like, I remember being a kid and rolling hay bales into dikes. Excuse me, I just knocked something over on my desk. I remember rolling hay bales into dikes, and I know some of my friends set fire to hay bales and stuff, which was great fun. And also, like climbing up to the top of hay bales and urinating on your other friends' heads when they go past underneath. It's like these kind of...
I think it was a bit different where you grew up to where I grew up.
In Lincolnshire, cow tipping's a thing.
It was where I'm from, actually. You heard of people going cow tipping and things. It's just not something I wanted to get involved in because those animals seemed really big compared to like a 10-year-old me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think I don't know if the whole cow tipping thing was like a a myth, like an urban legend.
Hmm.
Like I feel like some of it is not. Did it really happen? Was there anybody that did that?
There'll be a lot of kids that say they did, but didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So I also think that a lot of these things were character building for us growing up, and there's like a figuring out what's safe and what's not safe.
Which is a whole part of childhood, and that's why sort of kids of certain ages, it seems like they're on like a all-day suicide mission sometimes, and you're constantly trying to like take things away from them that are dangerous or stop them doing ridiculous things. But it is part of how it goes. It's like that classic thing, you burn your hand on the stove or something like that and go, ow, cry about it and go, tomorrow I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that again. Whereas if you burn your hand in like Minecraft, you can just keep doing that over and over again. Although, to be fair, I'm probably sounding really old now because Minecraft is probably more of a Gen Z thing.
Yeah, although it's still incredibly popular as far as I know. But do you think that would blur the lines? So if a great deal of time is spent playing games where there is no serious like repercussions of anything, just losing some points or respawning or whatever, do you think any of that would translate into the real world? And they'd start seeing life in a similar way where there's no like repercussions for doing certain things, which could lead to danger.
Yeah, yes and no, but I also feel like, and this might just be because I'm getting older and you always think your generation was like more fun or more adventurous or more this or that. I think that most of the younger Gen Z and then Gen Alpha, they're just boring. They're like, they don't do anything fun or random. Like everything's boring because they're so dopamine jacked from like watching things on YouTube and never having any opportunity to be bored. They're not in any danger because they're just like, sometimes with my, and this again is a different generation because it is generation Gen Z, but like my brother-in-law, for example, he's like 23, 24. I'm like, dude, go out and like get drunk, take some
Just
drugs, like
do
have
anything.
sex with some girls, do something. Don't sit in the house watching videos of like people playing games. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do something.
Or watching things where it's other people having fun. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, well, there, I'll just stay at home and let other people do that.
it blows my mind. Yeah, so there's a bit of that in my head. It's like, wow, they're almost like impetus, impotent, where it's like they just won't do anything.
Yeah. Do you think this sort of, when there's like constant stimulation from some source, whether it's like, it could be YouTube or TikTok or online games or whatever, does that just in general make people more bored?
Absolutely, yeah, because I feel like it's, well, not even I feel like, absolutely, because they get all of their entertainment through that stuff, right? And you know how addictive that stuff is. Like if I see a video or a news article, I think we touched on it before, like you'll never guess what this person looks like now, and I don't even know who the fuck it is. Right? I don't know what they look like then, but I still want to know what they look like now.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got all of that all day, then yeah, running around outside probably does seem boring. Like where I live, there's a lot of unfinished houses. If I was a 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, I'm in all of them houses. There's no doubt. Like I'm straight in them all, without question. In fact, my mum once had to go and phone the council because there was an abandoned old people's home in our village, and we were all in there playing with the stairlifts and going through all the old crap that had been abandoned. And it turns out the whole basement of that place was filled to the roof with water and all the floors were rotten. So we were just like, yeah, like look over judgment, getting pushed in wheelchairs across the whole big main room away from someone going through and being trapped in probably electric charged water underneath this old people's home, right? And we were like oblivious, and I got loads of shit off my mates, like, your mum's like ruined it for us, now it's all boxed up and
we
it's
can't
like,
go and risk our lives anymore in this.
Yeah, that's it. Where are we going to go and play now? All right, we'll go and play in the runoff from the field, which is full of like chemicals and pesticides and stuff that the farmers are spraying, and we're in there in like an upturned shell sand pit, like boating around and stuff. And that's just what we did. The water's so black and like petrol's been spilt in it with all the colors on it, and like a kid now, you'd be stood next to it and you go, hey, do you want this iPad with this cartoon playing on it, or do you want to go in that upturned sand pit in that black chemical filled water and then go build a den by the side of it on the island in the middle? Like, they're going to pick the iPad.
And what's wrong with these people? What's wrong with the youth of today,
But it's true though, that's fun, right? Like, that is genuine what kids do.
Yeah,
fun.
So because it's through the constant stimulation that we're getting from these devices, it creates boredom. But in the past, I think in previous generations, kids, when they're bored, they'd get creative and find something to do, like the example you just gave, or maybe other things that weren't quite so dangerous. But it's but there'd be some kind of creativity to do things. I can't help but think now it's kind of like the impetus to sort of be creative just isn't there. It's like, oh, I'm bored, but also my brain's just fried because certain areas of the brain have been overly stimulated by what they're processing from these devices.
Yeah, well, they say children between 8 and 12 spend on average 4 to 6 hours a day on screens.
Yeah.
According to Common Sense Media, for those of you that are thinking I just pulled that statistic out of my arse end.
And is that time in general, or is that just purely entertainment time?
That's time in general. So yeah, on screens. And I would presume most of that is entertainment time, which, when you consider that these kids are at school for 8 hours of that day, it's quite a lot. It's quite a significant portion of their downtime is spent on screens. Now, of course, it doesn't say what they're doing. They could be learning quantum mechanics. They could
Highly likely.
Yeah, they could be, hacking into the Chinese government, whatever, right? So, like, the character building.
It's going to vary. It's going to vary like wildly from country to country as well. Because, for example, in China, it's like, yeah, kids are allowed to play games and things like that, but I can't remember what it is, like an hour or two each week, I think, something like that. I can't remember, but it's some like crazy small amount of time that they're actually allowed to be playing games.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that game side of things is things that we experienced as kids. Like, I remember most Saturdays and Sundays, I would go around to my friend Patrick's house, and his dad would take us to the local market that sold knockoff games, because we had a chipped PlayStation where you'd put the old chip card in the back, and then you could put any disc in. They were like 3 for a tenner or a $5 each on this market store. So we'd go and get a good selection of games, play through them all. They'd mostly be rubbish. And then we'd just sit and play FIFA for most of the afternoon. But I do remember that we would get bored of playing FIFA and go outside and play football, or go for a bike ride through like muddy puddles, and that feeling of like mud splatting up your back when you're like nailing it down country lanes on a bike. And that, to me, is climbing trees and stuff is much more fun. Even like picking blackberries or whatever, right? Black currants, blackberries, right? That sort of stuff. Like, I imagine now if you went to a 10-year-old and said, hey, should we go out and pick some blackberries? They're going to be like, loser, no. Why, are we making a YouTube video?
Is this going on TikTok?
Is it for our channel?
Well, I guess the thing is, it's maybe the games now have really hacked the engagement side of them. So it's like there's something about them that hooks kids in more to a point where they don't want to do anything else. Or it's just like a sensory overload where or maybe it's conditioning as well. I don't know, but there's something going on there, because I was much the same. I didn't play computer games a lot when I was a kid, but it's like you were saying, you do it for a bit, and then it's like, all right, done that for like an hour. Kind of bored now. I want to go outside and do something.
Yeah, they would hit their limit. Now, I don't know if it's two reasons, right? I don't know if the reason number one for it is that the games weren't as good when we were kids. So they were nowhere near as immersive as they are now. So that could be a big part of it, right? Like, you know, when you're playing like whatever we used to play, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or whatever, it's like two guys just kicking the shit out of each other, and it's like there's only
knows the special moves wins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's only so many times you can get your ass kicked by Bison on the last level and have to start again and be like, fucking Ryu again. Fuck this. It's like you're like, smash the control pad and go out and pick some blackberries. You know, like it's trees for goalposts. But yeah, I definitely think that there is a much larger addictive nature to the way things are now, because things are just better. I think it's the same with TV. Like when you were a kid, when we were kids, you had two channels that played kids TV, and that would be on a Saturday morning only, and it would be BBC or ITV. Right?
Yeah.
And you might flick between the two if you were a bit adventurous. I'm not sure about, you know, normally you choose one or the other. I've seen relationships end over finding out one of your mates is an ITV kid when you're watching Live and Kicking. And, you know, did you see what happened?
Right, just
see what happened?
You
know, just see what happened on Live and Kicking. They're like, no, I watch ITV. Right, fuck it, you're dead to me. ITV, are you having a laugh? What song? My parents are aliens. That shit. What are you watching that for? But you know what I mean? It's like back then, that's all we had. And then a Super Nintendo with like 64 bits or a PlayStation 1, you know, to play on. And I do remember that I was much more immersed in games once we had things like Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation 2 and stuff. They were the kind of things you could then suddenly start playing endlessly.
Yeah, because I suppose it introduced a different level of gaming, and also in a way where it was kind of almost endless, the amount of different things that you could do. It's not like playing Tetris or something like that.
This is it. Yeah, you know, a bit of Pong. I mean, we're not quite that old. Is it Pong? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, with the two things at each side and the ball bouncing in between.
Yeah, this is it. So, I mean, I think that does like clarify a lot of the differences between then and now. I think an interesting place to kind of take this to now is education, right? So they say that things like YouTube and TikTok are now some of the top sources for learning and entertainment for kids under 12. And often they spend more time on these apps than they do in schools. Now, my question there is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because in some ways it could be a positive. Being in the limitation of school is that you have to teach to like the thickest kid in the class.
Yeah, completely. Whereas now, if you want to learn something, you can just go and learn it. And so for those kids that are at the top of the class and that are bored by what they're doing at school, they can kind of learn a higher level up just by searching for it on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the generalist side of that. There's like, you know, education in school is quite generalist because it has to be, because they're trying to teach you a certain amount of level that everybody needs to get to pass a certain type of exam.
So that you can specialize at a later point when you get to 16 or 18 or whatever.
Yeah, when you get to the point where they get to stick you with like 40 grand's worth of debt.
Have a nice time.
So you can continually for the rest of your life make less money than your friends that decided to be plumbers or electricians and start their own businesses when they were 16.
Yeah, which is completely true. I think with for learning through TikTok or YouTube or whatever, I think it kind of varies as well, because that kind of TikTok thing where it's ultra short videos, and also I guess it depends on topic or the specific thing that's being taught, but it's not like, okay, so if you watch like a long form thing on YouTube, and it could be a podcast or like an educational piece, but that might go on for like an hour, and it gives you a backstory to everything and it explains all the details. So when it comes to a final main piece of information that it's teaching, you kind of understand it thoroughly, and you understand the history, the workings. It gives it a story, you know, the background of the whole thing. Whereas just a sort of, I don't know, 45 seconds on TikTok, or maybe that's an over exaggeration, but it's not going to give you the same level of understanding. You might know E equals MC squared, but you don't know what any of it means or why, or like what implications it has.
Yeah, but it's enough to sound clever.
And maybe that's the main thing.
But there is, I mean, in some ways, I get that you need to learn the foundations of a subject for it to make sense and for it to be usable. But I often look back and I think the way that I was taught physics, for example, at school, if they'd have done a bit of a sort of TikTok intro and then started teaching me about friction and all of this other stuff, I might have found it more interesting. But they don't. I don't think I ever really knew that physics was like the thing that explores: do we live in multi-dimensional universes? Are there like every different version of me potentially in this string theory, like laid out crazy thing? Right. That is what the cutting edge of physics is about. What is existence? Why do we exist? And how do we exist? They're like, oh, so if you just take this car and roll it down this piece of wood, how long does it take? And it's like,
yeah.
And that's as fun as it gets as well.
And unfortunately, it depends. It's luck of the draw, isn't it? Whether you get like a really enthusiastic, good teacher, or some other mediocre thing. Where I think we mentioned in a previous episode how you can have some teachers that can take something so fascinating and amazing and just turn it into the most dreary, boring, like piece of crap that you've got to go to twice a week and just absolutely hate it.
We had Mr. Boycott, who's, I can probably mention him because I'd imagine he's dead by now, or at least almost. Probably not watching.
Is there some like saying about speaking ill of the dead?
Yeah, fuck him. And basically, as someone who's alive, I don't care. And when I'm dead, I won't care if people speak ill of me. So nobody's going to lose. You can all feel free to speak ill of me when I'm dead. As long as you don't do it.
Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe.
Down below, I'm sure you can find my other social links. But he was like, he'd had a nervous breakdown not long before that, and he came back, and he was just like the scariest motherfucker, ponytail, death stare. And he was just dull as dishwater. Like, his lessons were unbelievably dreary. And I quite liked the guy. He was a nice dude. But there was no inspiration in there. It's like the most fun it got was like making things you could drop off and see how many seconds it took to like hit the ground, you know, like little stuff like that. But that was as fun as it ever got. Now, if I could turn that back on its head, physics is probably the most interesting subject you can do at school. Like, and in some ways, mathematics is the same. Like, I know you have to teach me the fundamentals, but why?
Yeah, and I guess everything stems from mathematics as well, because physics is basically applied maths, and chemistry is applied physics and maths, and it sort of goes on down the chain.
This is it. Yeah. So I think just to link that back so that it does make sense in the context of the episode, and I'm not just running off and rambling, I think in some ways seeing subjects, topics put into something quite short that can spark an inspiration probably has some benefits. I think where that stops is that you flick to the next video and then you get, you know, cats falling off stuff, and then you switch to the next video and it's like women with big baps falling over, and then the next video, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
right?
and how much are you actually understanding and remembering? Because the thing with TikTok is just you're exposed to so much stuff in such a small piece of time, and it's how much are you going to remember? How much are you taking things in, or how much is it just putting you into that sort of hypnotic kind of state?
Yeah. And the other thing with screens is like it's a pain in the ass as a parent to manage it. Like as someone who has 2 kids, right? There's enough shit to deal with when you've got kids, right? There is enough like stop that, don't do that. I know people are going to watch. Oh, you shouldn't say don't do that to your kids. And I mean, have kids and then fucking message me back about it, right? And anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. There's enough things to manage already, and sometimes you have to do that. It just reminded me. I'll find this video to share with the audience. But there's this woman and her kids in the garden playing with this toy, and really annoying her with it. And she's like, "Listen, like, please stop doing that." And then she asks him, "Please stop doing that." And then the third time, she just takes it off him and drop kicks it over the fence.
Well, the kid or the toy?
And that, to me, you know, that's the truth. As parents, sometimes you do have to be like, "Wait, stop it." And the whole phone and screen time thing, like my daughter must ask me, even because we limit her, 5-6 times a day, "Can I watch the TV? Can I play games on your phone?" No. "Oh, please." No. "Oh, go on." No. You can't.
Because for the rules there, or you have the thing of, yeah, you just can't watch it that often. You can have this much time. It's like, oh, but, and then they kind of want to watch it more.
Yeah. And then they secretly watch it, and then grandparents like buy them phones and try and give them secretly to them, and then I have to like change the code on it, so I'm the only one who knows the code, and there's just all this stuff like that. And it's like the study that came up, there's one by the Pew Research Center that says 71% of parents say that managing screen time is a constant struggle. And I would say that 29% are fucking liars for saying that it's not.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's got to be like a huge battle as a parent.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's nonstop.
Especially when you have that peer thing as well at school, where say your kid's not allowed to do this, but like some other kid at school is allowed to use a smartphone as much as they want, or watch as much TV as they want.
Yeah. One of the friends in my daughter's class, and like I say, they're 7, 8, turning 8 this year, everyone in her class, and she has a smartphone with full access to TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. She's got her own Facebook. And then my daughter's like, "Oh, can I?" I'm like, "Fuck no, you can't." Like, "Can I have a phone can I have a phone when I'm 10? I'm like, "Yeah, a Nokia." A 3310 drug dealer burner phone you can have, my love. No problem at all.
You'll never break it.
No, I'll put Snake on it for you.
Snake 2.
You can have Snake 2. We'll upgrade you to Snake 2. But like, it's almost like these parents don't realize, because then the amount of kids you see running around that are blatantly like driven to ADHD if they didn't have it already because of this stuff, it's like, it's nuts.
I guess in some countries, especially more than others as well, there's that kind of like technological leapfrogging where it's like, so you have the parents' generation where it's like very little in the way of technology when they were a kid, or sometimes even through their lives. And then all of a sudden, their kids' generation, they all of a sudden have everything, where it's all like smartphones and social media and everything else. And it just because it's moved so quickly, and especially in countries where they're developing quickly, like in places like Vietnam, there'll be kids were at school today and their parents, it was like when they grew up, it was like even more of a difference compared to us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the same. You see it the same with other things, things that develop so much faster. There's like this missing sort of link between what it was like when they were young and what it is now. And there's a huge lack of education out there. Like there's no, then we definitely, there's a point you made early in probably our first or second episode, which our loyal viewers will of course remember, where you said there's no warning label on social media. It's just have at it.
Yeah. As it's changing so quickly, it should be so important that's there, and especially in places where all of a sudden it's gone like boom, and you've just introduced this thing seemingly overnight onto the population, and it's like everyone's just finding their feet with it, and then in 10-20 years time they'll go, oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that really.
Yeah.
But it's just a bit too late.
Yeah. So moving us a little bit out of miserable middle-aged old man mode, because we've done a good bit of that, which is nice.
I'm a middle-aged miserable old man. I mean,
yeah, but let's have a look at some of the other side of things, and then we can shit all over with our wisdom. So this is a crazy statistic. So by 2030, it is estimated that 85% of the jobs Gen Alpha will do haven't been invented yet.
I read that as well. I think it was from the World Economic Forum.
That's right. A collaboration with them and Dell Technologies.
Yeah, I think also in that, so that was the 2030 bit. There was also, they said that 65% of kids now will work in jobs that didn't exist before as well, but they didn't give like a specific date for it. So yeah, it's like, what would you educate kids to do anyway?
Yeah, and now as the devil's advocate on that, I'm just thinking on the other side of it. How many jobs that are here now existed when we were kids?
Yeah, well, like digital marketing.
I get paid to help people get clients on LinkedIn. Like the platform didn't exist. There was no sending people direct messages to have conversations with them. There was no posting of content. And I mean, the amount of content that was posted on LinkedIn alone is 7.5 times more the first quarter of 2025 than it was the first quarter of 2024. So that's a lot of people now being creators and content creators, right? So I suppose in some ways you could argue that maybe every generation was not fully prepared exactly, at least for the last 100 years, for the work that would be available when they're adults.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, this figure that they've given for 2030, it's like, yeah, that's true, but it's still only a ballpark figure, because with how technology and times are changing so much quicker as time goes on, it's like, yeah, there could be a different statistic to that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Exactly. And this is the thing. Look, see, we managed to bring it straight back down to skeptical, middle-aged. Yeah. Fuck this report and what it says. I know I brought it up 35 seconds ago, but I'm already discounting that shit.
This is absolute nonsense. What?
Yeah, what absolute bollocks. It's always been that way. If you were
some scientists who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, if you were a farmer in 1850, your kids were probably working in a Victorian shoe shine by 1870. I'm probably screwing up all my dates all over the place here. And by the time it was 1900s, they were working in I don't know what, But yeah, that same progression has happened for probably the last 150 years. I guess my question for it is, what even, there might not even be any jobs, and therefore is learning to be consume entertainment. Is that what you need to learn how to do?
Maybe that's the best way, because that's all everyone will be doing in 10 years.
Maybe.
Just sitting at home on your PlayStation.
Consuming information. Like,
and drinking beer all day, because it's all right. When your liver goes, you can just get a new one, and you can live for like 200 years just doing that.
This is it. So maybe this, it's the perfect preparation for a future of not needing to do anything, It's like, it can be like that episode of South Park where he's like, "Ma'am, I need to go to the toilet," and she comes in and they're playing Minecraft or whatever, and he just shits in the box and she runs out.
Nice.
It's funny. I'll give you a perspective for like what my brother and how he sees things happening. His belief is that his generation, which is Generation Y, because he's 10 years older than me, we're millennials, aren't we? So we've got that kind of millennial tag. He says that millennials and Gen Y are inventing robotics and robotics and AI, because we know that there's no fucking chance of the youth younger than us looking after us when we get really old.
That's why we're in this mad race to get AI. It's nothing to do with like we've got to get there quicker than China. It's just like we've got to get there before we get old, because like our kids don't give a shit about it
before we fall into the hands of these idiots.
They're just completely incompetent, can't do anything.
It's like, guys, we need to take action now, because when we're 80, these people are going to be taking care of us.
And they're going to be running the world.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, we seem to have an ability of keeping the best or the most powerful job in the world in the hands of pretty much octogenarians, don't we? So we're quite good at that.
Even if they have like dementia or something, it doesn't seem to matter too much.
Who said that?
What?
No. But yeah, so I guess in some ways we are generally led by a generation or two behind,
which sometimes I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because it always seems a bit strange when you have a president or something who's like almost 80 or whatever, who's going to know what to do about complex issues about modern life. But at the same time, if you left it to younger people, it'd probably just be an absolute mess at the same time. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a red herring, because if you look at government, it's like most of the actual work in government is done by junior ministers. And most of the junior ministers are like 25 to 35, So
yeah, I guess that is true.
The guys at the top have a policy and they're like, hey, we're going to do this. And then they go, all right, guys, go and implement it. And granted, there is a disconnect there, but I feel like most of the people that are junior politicians are absolute wankers. But there's still I think there's still a balance in it in that as well. But certainly, I can understand why my brother says that as a tongue-in-cheek. It's like, hey, at least we'll have AI and robotics. Come on, Elon.
Work harder. Yeah, completely. It's a very funny way to look at it.
Totally. Yeah. So I think in terms of the impact and the future, it's hard to really say how it's going to impact the world and whether or not it's a fully negative thing or a fully positive thing. Like, I kind of link it back to when we were kids. The sweets and the snacks and the stuff that we had were all like hyper grade additives, all of this.
Even just like the breakfast cereal and things like that. When you think about what you're eating for breakfast as a kid, it's insane. It's like every day have some like Frosties or Cocoa Pops or whatever else, and it's just like a mountain of sugar and just a load of
on cow feed. Yeah. Here's some cardboard covered in sugar. Shovel some of that down,
and take a
kids.
little Flintstones vitamin tablet afterwards and things like that.
Mate, I had a flashback the other day as I was telling my daughter to like not put. We got this cereal. She's like, "Dad, this is gross." I was like, "Put some sugar in it for her. Give it a little stir, natural sugar, but still." She's like, "Oh yeah, that's nice." Now I was like, "See, it's not the cereal you like; it's the sugar you like." And it gave me a flashback to when I was a kid, and I quite liked Weetabix, but those Weetabix would have a couple of mil layer of sugar
Like
across
just
the top,
frosting over the top.
yeah. And then a little bit of milk just to soften them up. You'd be digging into those things, and they're literally just pure fucking sugar.
And I guess the idea was it's because sugar is really cheap, and so pound per pound, I would imagine sugar's a lot cheaper than wheat. So you add like the sugary coating, you're then getting like extra weight. It's a bit like sort of cutting drugs and things like that in a lot of ways. But then at the same time, you've got the extra thing where the sugar's more addictive, makes it taste better. And it's just like a win-win situation for those companies making it.
Yeah, this is it. And it's funny how quickly or how you change over time. And if I told this story last time, you'll have to stop me. But I was in the supermarket recently, like reading the back of a tin. And I was like reading the ingredients on the back of this tin. And my wife came over and she was just laughing. So she'd been complaining about the tax that they charged on the receipt. And she said, "It's really funny watching you looking at the back of this tin in the supermarket when I know that in your 20s, if somebody just gave you a couple of random pills and you'd never met them before, you just eat them." Now I'm there checking the sugar percentages and the salt percentages and has it got any, this in it and that in it. It's like, yeah, it happens to all of us, man.
But I used to be a bit like that, even like my 20s and things like that. It's like, yeah, go out and like drink insane amounts or do whatever random pills that you don't really know what is exactly in them. But at the same time, I'd try and eat fairly well. And at the same time, it'd be like, I'd get sick or something. Maybe my friend or girlfriend would be like, "Oh, take a couple of paracetamol." And it's like, "Oh, I'm not taking that. I don't want to put those unnecessary chemicals into my body."
I only take pills that were made by acid in that tower block over in Snenton, mixed with like heart control pills and whatever else. Like, I'm not touching those.
Dust or something to give them that nice color.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. So it is funny, how things change, and I wonder maybe that is some of the concern that we have about too much tech. I mean, of course, statistics coming out about there being a massive rise in the numbers of under 10s with depression and anxiety. And, the dopamine levels that people are experiencing because they're constantly using phones. And all of these things are worrying. But it's kind of always been like that. Like it was worrying how much sugar we had as kids. I mean, was it even a thing to diagnose children with anxiety and depression when we were kids?
No, I don't think it was. I think that came in later.
Yeah, and then before that, dyslexia and stuff wasn't a thing, and ADHD and autism even weren't accepted as things that really existed. And then if you go further back, it's like factory kids coughing out their lungs and stuff was just like, it's just one of the things of the job. Like it's kind
what
of
happens when you climb up chimneys and when you're 5 years old, and it's just part of
it. And that again is the balance. It's an interesting question because obviously you don't want any of that going on. But if you had to choose between your 7-year-old cleaning chimneys in a Manchester wool factory or whatever, or your 7-year-old watching too much Cocomelon,
I mean, the factory is way better, in my opinion.
At least there's a sense of adventure.
But
Victorian city kids didn't have to climb trees because they were climbing chimneys.
They were too tired to climb trees by the end of the day, and too weak.
All they wanted was
they were malnourished.
All they wanted was a pint of mild and a couple of woodbines in bed.
But I think it's that thing that we're always, because we're constantly evolving and advancing the society in terms of knowledge and everything else, we're always going to look back sort of, maybe even not a long time, but like 10, 20 years and go, wow, can't believe we did that back then. And it's usually, it takes a while for like the science to catch up, but it's always going to be ahead. So no matter what we're doing now, there's always going to be something we're doing that's like going to be looked back on later as being absolutely mental.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind is like with anything, the usual answer to the question is moderation and making sure that something's balanced. So if you're listening and you've got kids or you're thinking about kids in the future and it's a concern to you, just making sure that there's not too much of anything is the way to go.
Because it's such a mixed bag as well. So it's like, so some plus points that we didn't mention is that like digital natives usually have enhanced visual spatial skills, better information processing, cognitive flexibility between tasks. There's all these things that they have in a way that's better than we didn't. But then at the same time, attention spans have gone down from 12 seconds in the year 2000 down to 8 seconds today. And that's a drop by what, a third?
Sorry, I lost track of what you were saying, but
yes. Case in point.
I was just thinking about this really funny short that I watched earlier.
And this man falling over on TikTok.
Yeah, good-looking females falling over. Yeah, great stuff. Men of culture, we meet again. But no, you're right, and I think it's the good and the bad. I'm going to test that later, but when I leave the room after this recording, I'm going to throw something at my daughter and see if she's got the hand-eye coordination to stop it. But yeah, I think that's it. It's there are obviously benefits to the amount of information and the thing that we're progressing in that sense. But let's not let people rot their minds totally by sitting and staring at crap all day. And
yeah, and also, I mean, I guess I'm not a parent, but if I was, I'd be kind of responsible about it, and parents are responsible in all kinds of other ways. It's like, did I feed my kid? Did I do this, that, whatever? At the same time, oh, not again.
Wait, where are they?
Oh, they're not still in the car, I bet. It's red hot out there today.
32 degrees. Shit. Yeah.
But it's like people as parents look up different things to make sure that the kids are going to be eating the right foods or different things like that. It's like, do the same thing for this. And it's easy to do a quick search or chat to an AI for a little bit or something like that to find out what's like the optimal amount of time, or should you even, what are the pros and cons of exposure to screens and phones and that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's only going to unpack itself as time moves on, because I don't think it's something that necessarily will be heavily regulated. And to be honest, I'm not really for heavy regulation anyway, but that is definitely a conversation for another episode for sure. I think, should we regulate or not? Definitely an episode for the future where we can get that down on our list. Fantastic. Well, that has been a journey. I think hopefully everybody watching, listening, got some entertainment value out of that. Of course, me and Adam have got vast experience when it comes to spending too much time staring at screens and, flicking through endless shorts, usually just boosting our own watch numbers on the shorts that we post for the Temporally Scripted podcast. And with that said, if you've got this far through, give us a like, give us a subscribe, go and find our website, temporallyscripted.com, or follow us on X at temporallyscripted. At least I think it's that. I will need to double check. Next time on the show, we're getting into the psychedelic path. which is from party to perspective. So we're going to talk a lot about our personal experiences with mind-altering substances, but also trace how those substances have evolved from counterculture rebellion to cutting-edge therapy. We're going to share a lot about our own journeys, from recreational experiments to profound personal insights to lying on the floor crying and waiting to call our mum. So yes,
Jeez.
I know. Yeah. Well, you'll all have to tune in to see what that's all about. Anyway, Adam, until next time, thank you very much, my friend.
Well, indeed. Same to you. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. See you next time.